Welcome to Storytime with Tallulah. Today's reading comes from r/RelationshipAdvice. Our first story is titled, My Wife Baby Trapped Me. I put baby trap in quotation marks because I'm not sure what she did is the actual definition of baby trap. She didn't have a kid to make me stay, just against my will. So my wife, 32-year-old female, and I, a 34-year-old male, have been together for 8 years. We have a little girl, 5-year-old female, and a baby boy, 2-year-old male. I love both of them more than anything, and I finally feel like I have everything. A beautiful wife, 2 healthy kids, a great career, and a big house. The token American dream, minus the dog. I'm allergic. When we talked about kids before, my wife always said she wanted 2. I only wanted 1. It would be easier and we'd have more money for vacations and stuff, but my wife maintained it's important for a child to have a sibling. I grew up with 4 and my wife with none, so I guess I understand where she's coming from. After our son and getting through the baby years and sleepless nights for the second time, I didn't want to ever go through that again. Both kids were very fussy and colicky. But when he was a year old, my wife began casually mentioning a third. I would laugh it off, but finally she sat me down and said we have to have a third. I said no, we agreed on 2, but she said she wanted 4 and 3 is the compromise. I refused and said I wanted 1 and we have 2. She got angry and called me selfish for taking away her dream of wanting a big family. A couple days later, she apologized and we smashed. I noticed her drive increased exponentially, but so did mine, and I was happy to engage her. She was on birth control, I had a condom, it was all good. Thinking back on it, I probably should have figured something was up, but I was barely handling 2 kids and work on top of housework and yard work and everything. I came home from work one day while the kids were at their grandparents'. My wife had a huge smile on her face and she sat me down and showed me a positive pregnancy test, literally dancing in joy. My first thought was, oh crap. My wife noticed a less than happy expression on my face and started screaming at me. She berated me for not being supportive and this was a miracle from God and I should be grateful. I said I was sorry and hugged her and said I was super excited for the baby. My wife was delighted and later that night she was calling all family and friends to happily tell them the news. When she was talking about the nursery and how we'll convert my office into a room, I started to get a little suspicious. Everything was so well thought out and it seemed like she had been planning this for a while. When she was asleep, I took the condoms out of the cupboard and ran them underwater. Holes. I nabbed her phone and saw she'd set a password. That was odd. Nevertheless, my wife has a terrible memory, so I tried her birthday and it opened. Further up were texts with her best friend of my wife, complaining how I wouldn't come around. Her best friend suggested, arrange an accident with a winky face. My wife agreed and said she was going to come off birth control. I went on for a little while, ending with my wife saying that, yes, we were going to have a third. So I woke her up immediately and asked her if this had really been a miracle. She got that deer in headlights look and burst into tears. She wailed and then she got angry. Through tears, she screamed I had no right to go through her phone and it's her choice whether or not she wants to take birth control. The side effects are bad and she was sick. She also brought up if I really didn't want a third kid, I should have a vasectomy. She told me to go to sleep on the couch. I laughed out loud and said, no, I'm sleeping here. You're leaving. So while wailing, she packed a bag and left to her parents. When she called the next day, I told her I just need some time to myself. She said that's fine, but I need to come around for our child. I told her I wasn't sure if it'd be our child, and she cried more. It's been 2 weeks since then. Governments recommended to stay at home, and I knew staying home by myself while also working with 2 kids would not be ideal, and she wanted to see our kids. So we're in the same house. She constantly keeps on stopping me and trying to get me excited for our kid and planning the nursery and names and how happy our kids will be to get a younger sibling. I've been ignoring her entirely. What do I do? Staying home with her is bad enough and I don't know if I should leave her over this. I don't trust her anymore. She entirely betrayed me. I'm angry, but I have another child on the way. Wow, that sounds like a bunch of nonsense. I'd be upset too if I was in your position, but at the end of the day, I think you're just gonna have to go through with it. You committed and yeah, enjoy your third child and congratulations. Alright, the next story is titled, Update. My wife said something strange about her ex, and it's really getting to me. I'm a 31-year-old male, she's a 31-year-old female. Too long, didn't read. My wife occasionally talks about her ex as though she misses him, and then the other night she said he was the only guy she ever knew with beautiful feet. Yeah, weird, but also hurtful towards me and my nasty feet. So I actually tried to post this the very next morning while replies to my first post were still streaming in because I talked to Abby almost immediately and considered the issue largely settled. Automod deleted it, so I've had to wait a couple days. In hindsight, I'm glad I've had to wait because it gave me more time to reconsider the responses I received. First of all, I wanted to thank everyone who responded yesterday. Unfortunately, I did receive a bit of bizarre advice. A number of users called my wife an alpha widow. Still others told me to divorce her immediately because she must be cheating. I had a few users calling my wife a B. This was a sobering reminder that anonymous internet people don't understand the nuances of my marriage, and people tend to project their own insecurities onto other people's situations. So I'd advise anyone considering posting here, use discretion in what advice you take. Just to get ahead of some of the speculation, Brock has lived in South Korea for 2 years. He is prohibited by a court order from contacting Abby, and I have open access to her DMs anyway. If she were cheating, I'd be the first to know. I also received some great advice about trauma bonding and recovering from abusive exes. These responses were the most helpful. All this said, here's what I posted about that night. I was sitting on the bed last night just kind of brooding when Abby came in. She sat on the bed next to me and looked at me. She must have known something was up because I haven't been myself these last few days and our bedroom has been dead since the feet comment. Abby asked me if everything was okay. I gave her a weary smile and said no, I suppose not. She frowned and asked if we could talk about it. I sighed heavily and was quiet for a few moments. Abby didn't look nervous or defensive, she looked genuinely concerned. So I figured she must not be aware of how hurtful her Brock comments have been, and I should just be honest. I started by asking if she's willing to be 100% honest with me. She said that she was. So then I asked if she's happy being married to me and if she'd prefer being with someone else instead. She seemed a little taken aback by the question and said she would never dream of marrying someone else. My voice was shaking the whole time and Abby looked like she was ready to cry too. Finally, I lay everything out. I tell Abby that a few nights ago we were talking about feet and she had said that my feet were gross but Brock's feet were beautiful. I said maybe it sounds really silly and dumb, but that comment made me feel really ugly and it broke my heart. She gasped and started crying at this point. I said there's been a few other times where she mentioned Brock and acted like she really missed him because she sounded enamored when she talked about him. I said I think that Brock was probably a lot more attractive than me and she would have preferred staying with him over me. Abby cried for a long time before she was able to say anything. It was probably only 2 minutes, but it felt like forever. She said she didn't realize that she was mentioning Brock that way and upsetting me so much. She said she couldn't imagine marrying anyone else but me. I said even though I'm uglier than Brock, and she started crying again, like really bawling. After she pulled herself together again, she admitted that Brock was a very attractive man and that she had been infatuated with him. It seemed extremely difficult for her to get those words out, but Brock had also been controlling and incredibly cruel. She never felt safe or at ease with him, but she did feel safe with me. She said she had married me and wanted children with me, and that she had never even dreamed of marrying Brock, let alone having kids with him. Then we talked about some deeper, more personal stuff that I'd rather not get into here. I did mention some of the trauma bonding stuff that some Redditors had mentioned last night, and Abby admitted that she had felt addicted to the drama while she was with Brock. She agreed to talk with her counselor about her unresolved issues with the past relationship. The conversation took well over an hour, and we both cried a lot. But I did feel much better afterwards. We cuddled for a while before I joked that I guess Abby was stuck with my nasty feet for life. She took my head in her hands and said she thought I had the most beautiful feet in the world because they were mine. We made out and made love for the first time in a week. Maybe that's too much information, but I figured a lot of folks here would appreciate a happy ending. So I guess the issue is largely settled. I do think that maybe I overreacted a little, but my feelings at being inadvertently made to feel less attractive were real. I'm glad I didn't second guess my emotions and suppress them. Thank you to everyone who offered advice in the original thread. It seems the situation has been resolved. Edit. Though I will add that I still feel a little sad and I'm not as attractive as Abby's ex, not because I'm jealous, but because I want to be the best she's ever had in every way, including physically. But I guess I simply have to make peace with the fact that I'm not the most attractive guy Abby has been with. I suppose a lot of us have to make peace with that, huh? Edit number 2. I appreciate all your kind words. I would like to add that I do not consider the situation magically over, but I count it as resolved because Abby and I are both moving in the right direction and actively working on fixing things. I would also like to add that even with this positive update, I am seeing some disappointing comments. Users saying that I'm immature, that my wife is definitely totally cheating on me, and that I'm a troll making this whole thing up because my writing style isn't very good. That this sub is a terrible place to share a serious marital issue, and I shouldn't have done it, etc., etc. I also a few interesting private messages trying to rope me into some kind of anti-woman community, and one instructing me to end myself. I've read that Reddit can be toxic, but this has been eye-opening. I do want to post an update maybe a month down the road, but I do think in light of all this negativity that maybe I will just leave things here. There is a lot that I did not post here, and I mean a lot. I guess it's understandable that some people are treating this as their blank canvas to project their own insecurities. Thank you to everyone who provided positive input and constructive criticism. Wow. I don't know. I don't think you're immature. I feel like if you're in a position where your partner or your wife is actually reflecting and talking about her exes in flattering ways, especially putting them above you, then you have every right to feel upset about that, because that to me is completely unacceptable, and you should not be doing that because that is very unfair to either party. I don't think the guy, woman, guy, woman, whoever the relationship is, I don't think anyone in the relationship should do that to each other. That is a recipe for a lot of issues. Anyways, thank you all for tuning in today, and if you like this video, please like it. And if you really enjoyed these types of videos, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit that bell for notifications so you know when more videos come out. Thank you all for your continued support, and I hope you all are safe out there. If you haven't joined the Discord yet, there's a link in the description if you'd like to come by and say hello. Make some friends because there's a lot of awesome people there. It's a great community. Again, thank you all for your continued support, and with that being said, we will see you next time.